Hello there, welcome to Rebel Base, IGN's weekly Star Wars show. So this week it was announced that Brad Bird is directing Incredibles 2, which is good news if you like Incredibles.
For Incredibles fans everywhere.
Exactly. Bad news for me though, because I had him down in my head to direct episode 9.
You had him down?
Yeah, I had him down.
So I've got him down here, and you've let him sign this deal?
I genuinely, when he said, oh, he's going to direct Incredibles 2, a part of me went, but he's directing? Oh no, it's only you wanting him to direct.
Yeah, you've made that film in your head.
I know.
So we wanted to talk about, if he's not directing it, who's going to direct it?
Yeah.
Who's going to direct this sucker?
But don't you think, like, let's go back to Brad Bird for a second, though. Don't you think he'd just be a really good fit for a Star Wars film? He was approached by Kathleen Kennedy to do episode 7 before Abrams was, and he decided not to do it.
So he's obviously, like, he was on their shortlist.
Yeah.
Like, there's something they've seen in his movies. He's always just a good director.
Very good director, yeah.
And versatile, can do action. Obviously, that's why Pixar wants him back to do Incredibles 2, which a lot of people regard as one of the finest Pixar movies. I think its kind of standing has increased over time.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That opening section's brilliant as well. And I thought he did such a great job on Ghost Protocol as well.
Ghost Protocol is one of the best Mission Impossible films, I think.
It's just a great blockbuster, summer blockbuster as well.
How do you take over from someone like J.J. Abrams? You make that film, and you make an incredible film. You know, how do you take over from someone like J.J. Abrams on Star Wars?
Is that the logic? Who's directed films after J.J. Abrams in that series? That's the level. That's why they get the top jobs at Lucasfilm.
No,
because they have IMDb cheap.
Daniel.
Yeah.
What I meant by that film was that film.
Okay.
It was so good. That's what you do, and that's what he'd be taking over from Abrams, Rian Johnson. I would have had. I'd have had Brad Bird in before I had Rian Johnson in, to be honest.
You're forgetting I know what you meant.
Yeah.
So, right, Brad Bird's definitely not doing it.
Yeah.
We're going to go through some candidates that we think would be up for the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So starting off with Andrew Stanton. So, like, animated again.
Animated. So, animators.
Only because it's hard. Because if you start looking at, like, start looking at the directors out there, as we did for this list, and you start going, right, who are the big directors? Who would you like to see? And then, you even if you Google, like, Hollywood's biggest directors. Number 1, Michael Bay. He can't go anywhere near Star Wars.
Michael, no. I'm free. No.
But then you get like Steven Spielberg, and you think, okay, could Steven Spielberg do a Star Wars film? Is he going to do that? Like, doesn't seem like he would be that interested.
If you look at the core strands of Star Wars, I think it's story, and then obviously there's action as a core element, but it's really integrating character and action, which obviously I think there's lots of directors in Hollywood that specialise in spectacle.
Yeah.
There's very few that specialise in character mixed with spectacle.
Yeah.
Where you tell something about that character during an action sequence. Yeah. And some of the directors we're going to get onto, I think, all do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You learn something about those characters when they're being heroic, when they're being tested, when they're being challenged.
Exactly.
Which is the key, really.
And I think that's why animated, that's why we're seeing good animation directors making the foray into film, because they do that. So you think like Andrew Stanton, he co-directed Finding Nemo. That is a Star Wars film, essentially. Like, under the water.
I'm gonna stay with you.
Like, it's a quest. So it's like this huge quest, like across the vastness of an entire ocean. You have a little tiny fish trying to get back to his dad. You have a little tiny fish, like, who is the dad, making his way across the entire ocean to try and find his son. That's
coming of age story.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's mysticism in it. There's like meeting all these different types of fish.
There's a dentist's office.
It's
all there if you look at it.
And then you've got WALL-E as well. Then you did WALL-E, and like that, it's a very, very quiet film, but space exploration.
Like the first Finding Nemo had a really deep parallel. Yeah. And then WALL-E, you just got space in it.
Space. So,
but they say that about animators a lot, because obviously animators go. They have mirrors by their desk so they can perform. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons these films are so good, and animation is a great foundation for directors, is they say animators are frustrated or shy actors.
Yes. Yeah.
So animation directors really understand performance. Yeah. And also that, like, he's a writer as well. Yeah. Which, even though we know Rian Johnson's helping script episode 9, I'm sure like there's a brain trust of Abrams will still be involved to some degree, and Kasdan. I do think someone like that kind of jack of all trades, who really understands set pieces, technology, important as well. A guy with a Pixar like alumni.
Is technology important though? Because Andrew Stanton did do John Carter of Mars.
It's maybe Pete Docter then.
Yeah. Next up then, I mean, this is obvious choice, and rumours are just everywhere. Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
It's got to be him, hasn't it? Like, let's stop the show now.
Well, to like go back to just briefly Stanton, it's like that makes sense because he's a Disney man.
Yeah.
You know, people hire people they know and people they trust. Yeah. Why would Disney not hire the man that's made two of the highest-grossing films of all time?
And who is a massive Star Wars fan.
Because there's two conversations to be had here. We're speculating about who we'd like to do it on a creative level, but then also on the level
of production and
what would make sense to people. That's how like the two things kind of influence and factor in together for making this decision. So in that sense, he's the obvious choice. He's made Disney like billions and billions of pounds. But then on a technical level, he's brilliant. He's a great writer. And, you know, some people bit down on Ultron, but across the board, people really positive on it. I think I've seen some people nitpicking, but I think Ultron's such a great example of like, it's got so many characters, but everyone gets to a moment, and you learn something like I was saying about characters being defined through their actions as well as what they say. And when you've got that many characters, they can't all have massive monologues that tell you their deepest thoughts. Sometimes you need to learn about them in battle.
I think that's cool.
And I think Ultron does that perfectly.
I mean, if you look at Firefly and you look at Serenity, like, that is Star Wars. Like, everything that he does is steeped in Star Wars references, and like, he just knows that world. He owns 8 lightsabers, which he like has people over to his house to duel with him. Like, that's a thing that he talks about doing.
I think it'd be interesting for him to get that job as well, because I think this, because he's been involved with the development of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not right from the beginning, but pretty early on. And he's defined it, and I think he's going to be a part of setting that. So the Marvel Universe has a bit of a Joss Whedon flavour to it. I think he'd have to repress that entirely if working within the Star Wars universe. You know what I mean? He'd really have to almost evacuate some of his tics and idiosyncrasies away from that script.
But then what's the point in getting him on?
Because I think he knows about character and thing. Like, I think he can make a Joss Whedon film if you want Brand Whedon. But I think he's obviously an insanely intelligent man and a skilled director that he would submit to Star Wars, as it were.
I guess so. I think that's a really good one. But I mean, moving on to someone who's not as experienced, and for what you're saying, like, you know, Joss Whedon comes with not baggage, but he comes with Joss Whedon. Like, he's going to make his stamp on whatever film that he does, even if that film is the biggest film in the world, like Age of Ultron. He's going to make that a Joss Whedon movie, whereas Star Wars can't really do that. I think Abrams is good at working like that, but someone like Joe Cornish. Now, I loved Attack the Block, and I thought what he did with that, like with such a small budget and a small film, made this like intergalactic sort of thing, but happening in the middle of Peckham in South London. Like, he hasn't got, you know, all this sort of like baggage of personality or anything like that. He's ready to, he's quite malleable in sort of like a Hollywood sense.
It's strange, because I think if you look elsewhere in the Star Wars like universe on film at the moment, you know, yes, Gareth Edwards had done Godzilla, but pretty much pretty untested director. He had that one big hit, which makes it easy for them to pick him. I know Josh Trank's dropped out now, but really only done one film at that stage. Fantastic Four's now. So they're willing to go with like new directors. Cornish hasn't done much since Attack the Block. Obviously, he was mired in the whole Ant-Man debacle for a long time. Again, I think he does bring his own stamp, but he's a funny guy as well. Very funny. We know him well in Britain because we know him from his comedy work as well. And Joe Show.
But I mean, the Adam and Joe Show, like for you guys who like maybe in America who haven't seen it, you should seek it out, because basically what he did on like late night Channel 4 was make little Star Wars films using Star Wars figures. He was basically invented Robot Chicken before Robot Chicken.
He like rotoscopes his mouth onto the figures. Really funny stuff.
So and they know Star Wars as well. They grew up in Star, like he grew up in Star Wars. He knows that world. Also, like he gave John Boyega his debut as well. Like, he recognized this like little kid who hadn't really done much acting before and was just like, he's obviously going to be a star. And like anytime you meet John Boyega or see him do anything, you're just like, yeah, he has this thing. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it's like beyond the realm of possibility. I think he needs to do one big film in between now and the time that comes out. Like, just because by the time episode 9 comes around, Cornish has got a few things in production. They're in various states of development, and I think you know, none of these might happen. But I think if he was to stand a chance, one of those things has to like really hit. Be a hit.
I agree. One thing that has hit for another director, though, Guardians of the Galaxy for James Gunn.
It was quite big.
He's number 4 on our list, and I think he's a really good choice. Like, does good space, I've written down here.
I'm glad you put together these notes.
Guardians of the Galaxy, set in space. Star Wars, where's that set? That's right, kids. It's in space.
Is it? Wondered what that was about.
So, I mean, he's Disney's golden boy. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy made so much money. You'd think, you know, and he's doing Guardians 2. Is he gonna want to do a Guardians 3?
Yeah,
is there going to be a Guardians 3?
Disney man as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
keep saying it. And it feels like everyone works for Disney these days because they've got so many pies on the go.
Yeah.
Again, ensemble piece, good with multiple characters. I think
that's an easy one.
Yeah, I think he's an obvious choice.
Yeah.
And you've put also can bring Chris Pratt with him. just for moral support.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
It would be good with Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that.
Yeah, maybe they're the same person from different time periods.
I think they are, yeah. So what about then, last on our list, Duncan Jones?
Yeah.
This is an interesting one because I think Moon is one of the best sci-fi films that's been made in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a good science fiction film. And it's got, you know, sort of elements of Star Wars. There's a star in it. No, it's got elements of Star Wars in the sense of, like, you know, it's a good story, but there's good humor, there's good characters in it.
I think Moon is a really small, intimate movie. So I don't think it's maybe the best kind of demo tape for Star Wars, but he like transitioned to a bigger movie with Source Code, and now he's transitioning to a bigger movie with Warcraft.
Yeah.
So he's like definitely on that trajectory, and obviously it's like Whedon. When Whedon was announced for Avengers at Comic-Con, people went crazy because they thought, this guy gets it. And I think Jones is moving to a position where you know, depending on Warcraft, he's obviously he's into video games, he's into popular culture. He was weaned on this stuff as we all were. I think he's getting to that position where he's like a fan favourite, and there'd be a lot of goodwill if he got it. Again, we don't know what his career will be like in a couple of years' time when this decision will be made, but I think he's definitely on that trajectory.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I put down here, might get David Bowie to be in it, and he is actually from space. So
again, good notes.
Yeah, exactly. So those are who we think could direct episode 9. Who do you think? Obviously, let us know. rebelbase@ign.com. It's time for another edition of Force Feedback, the best name section on IGN, says the people. I am part of the people, and I say that, so the people technically say it. Dan Jansen writes in saying, Dear IGN, a lot of people hate the prequels of the Star Wars film. However, I grew up watching those films and enjoyed them, in particular the fight scenes, especially the one between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I feel they were better than the originals. I was wondering, do you think the new films should keep these high-octane choreography fights or go back to the boring, slow choreographed ones of the originals? Also, Revenge of the Sith is my favourite Star Wars film. Right, he had me up until then, and then he sort of lost it with the Revenge of the Sith thing. But I think we have actually talked about it.
It's not your favourite?
No, it's not.
What's your favourite?
Phantom Menace. But we've talked about this on the show before, actually. Like when it was sort of announced that maybe the Raid guys were going to be in a couple of the Star Wars films, we thought, you know, you forget that there are really good fight scenes in the prequels.
They're excellent. Yeah. They're really good.
Because, you know, I think you've said it before, actually, where it was like, that's how Jedi should move, because they can manipulate, like, sort of space.
I think you can, like, almost predict the future as well and react accordingly. Like,
and if you watch, and if you watch, like, Star Wars Rebels, they really go to town on that, because, like, Kanan and Ezra are jumping around the place all the time, and it looks really, really good. So I really do hope that they keep that.
Yeah, I don't think you can go back. It might not make narrative sense in the same way that the beginning of the original trilogy, there's no more Jedis, the ones that are half robotic, old, or novice.
Yeah.
We might be in a similar situation here with the new episodes, but I just don't think they can go back. There's kind of an expectation. It's like the technology being too good in Prometheus or something. They think that's what audiences want, and I think the action will be like that. Otherwise, I think people are like, "What's this?"
Yeah, I completely agree. What's yours?
Next one from Richard. Hey Richard, I was thinking, speculation and all, what do you guys think about Gwendolyn Christie's character, Captain Phasma, being a rogue trooper? Possibly along the same lines of what looks like is happening with Finn's character. It would be awesome if she defected but kept the armour and is now infamous among the ranks of the First Order, and it would also provide a strong mentor figure to Finn. Possibly one in a similar situation, but who is willing to go one step further to defeat her old masters. This could also add conflict to their relationship if Finn is going down the Jedi path like many are speculating.
I like that bit. I like the fact that she's like a rogue trooper and he's a rogue trooper with her, and then he starts going down a Jedi path and she doesn't like that. I do kind of like that, but I kind of want her to be like a proper badass baddie as well.
Yeah, it's weird. again, we always say they're actors, so they can play a multitude of roles. But when you know an actor for only really one thing to date, it's really hard to like let go of them as that character. We know her obviously as Brienne from Game of Thrones, and she plays a wonderful character. I'm really attached to her. It's weird to think of her suddenly being a bad guy.
But I kind of really want to see her as a bad guy, because if she was bad, she'd be really bad.
Yeah, and like she's really the armor's so wicked, and like people are making comparisons with Boba Fett because he's literally just such a cool and potentially you know, could be iconic in years to come. That's something you judge in the future. I hope she is a big character. I like her just in general, but I think it's such a striking character. It'd be interesting if she defected, but at the same time, it's almost interesting having someone that you identify with on the side of the Empire.
No, I think that's.
So I think the Empire needs really strong characters who stay with it. If she defects, Finn defects. Who's going to be our anchor in the Empire? Because we always used to have Vader and a range of supporting characters. I think you need that as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think she's just. I'd want her to be an ultimate badass in the film. Like she's the one that you fear, not the
not Kylo Ren. He's nothing, mate.
That's what I think. I generally. That's what.
I think she'd just be a really cool character along the similar lines of Boba Fett.
Yeah. Well, as always, if you want to get in touch with us, email us rebelbase@ign.com. We're down here at Madame Tussauds for the brand new Star Wars exhibition, which opens on Saturday, May the 16th. We've had a little sneak preview of it. Krupa, what have we seen?
So you start off, you come in through kind of a spaceship, and you come down some stairs, and there's exhibits, there's models, figures even, of key characters throughout the 6 movies, and you kind of go through them sequentially. This is where you start. You start off in Phantom Menace, and then you go through to Revenge of the Sith, and then you go straight back to the original trilogy. And there's a lot of stuff weighted towards the original trilogy.
Definitely, I mean, there's nothing from Attack of the Clones here at all. I think that's gone. But it is really, really good. And I said to you as soon as we started looking at them, I was like, I know it's the point of them, but they do really look like them.
That's the thing. Like I've kind of seen like wax figures before in other countries, and they're kind of okay, but you're very much that kind of, we talk about in video games, the uncanny valley effect, and there's just something off where sometimes they're just a bit rubbish. These are ridiculously good. Like really these are definitely the best I've seen. Like the one of Qui-Gon just there to my left is quite off-putting because he keeps making eye contact with me.
And looking at you.
He's like ridiculously detailed.
I saw you take a little selfie with him earlier. I was going to take a selfie with the Emperor, but I looked at him and I actually felt a little bit afraid.
Yeah, but he was real. He's actually real, the last one.
Oh, they actually got him.
Yeah, that's actually real.
Oh, that's really good, yeah.
So what's your favourite one?
I think my favourite one is Chewie, just because, you know, you set up with the Millennium Falcon. Chewie is ridiculously cute anyway, and like I saw the lady who works here, so brushing his hair and giving him a little back comb, I was like, that is really freaking cute.
As you know, you identify with Chewie quite a lot.
Of course, yeah.
I'll give you a little back comb. But what's quite cool, I thought they were all going to be like behind glass or behind ropes and far back, but they're not. You can go and pose with them, take selfies. I think some of it might be a bit more cordoned off when it opens to the public, but some of them are definitely designed for you to like sit in a chair next to Chewie, sit in the Mos Eisley Cantina next to Han. So you can get, if nothing else, you can get some amazing profile pics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he came down.
There was a bit actually with a PR girl who has been really, really good, but I started touching Han, and then I saw her looking at me, so I sort of like, stop. She was like, no, you can do whatever you want. I was like, oh, that's good. And then I said, oh, I think this bit will come off. She said, yeah, don't touch that.
Don't break them. This hasn't even opened yet, is what she said.
And then I did start touching C-3PO's cob piece, and she was like, yeah, pack at it now.
Once again, proof you cannot take Gav anywhere. So my favourite one, I think, was actually Yoda. It's an amazing little scene where he's on Dagobah and you can sit down next to him. And it's been quite just soothing about being on Dagobah with Yoda. And they light it in a way that makes it look really cinematic when you take pictures, which I really appreciate.
I think that's the point, isn't it? Like the point of Mannequin Store is you come down, you have your picture taken with different people like David Beckham and stuff like that. But I mean, I'd rather get my picture taken with Han Solo, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you like what you've seen, I think we've made it look pretty damn good. You can come down and check it out for yourself. Madame Tussauds in London.